Welcome to Growing Tall Poppies, Thrive After Trauma. I'm your host, Dr. Nat Green, and I am so excited to have you join me as we discuss what it means to navigate your way through trauma or significant challenges and not just survive, but to thrive after it. This is a space for people who've been through trauma or adversity, have done some healing, and know they're meant for more than just coping. This podcast is about post-traumatic growth, not getting back to who you used to be. Rather, understanding who you are now and learning how to stand tall without shrinking, forcing, or abandoning yourself. Here, we explore identity after adversity, integrity and visibility wounds, nervous system wisdom, and what it really takes to move forward in a way that feels aligned, embodied, and true. You will hear a blend of deep solo conversations and powerful guest interviews with people who have lived this work, not just studied it. Because growth doesn't come from pushing harder, it comes from understanding how you adapted, honouring your nervous system, and gently updating the old agreements that no longer fit the life you're ready to live. If you're ready to stop hiding, stop performing, and start owning who you are becoming, then you are in the right place. Let's grow tall together. Hello and welcome back to Growing Tall Poppies. I'm your host, Dr. Nat Green, and I am really honoured today to bring you our next guest on the podcast. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome a lovely man I've recently connected with, Keith A. Cole. Now, Keith is a Marine Corps Vietnam combat veteran, retired certified public accountant, speaker and author of Burnout, God's Recovery Plan, a Marine story of trauma, surrender, and healing through faith. Wounded 3 times during combat in Vietnam, Keith spent decades building a successful career while quietly carrying the effects of trauma and the weight of life's responsibilities. And eventually those pressures led to severe burnout. And rather than allowing burnout to define his life, Keith discovered a path of recovery rooted in surrendering to God, renewing his mind through scripture, and practicing daily disciplines that restored his emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. Now, today, Keith shares a message of hope with audiences through podcasts, and I'm feeling very, very privileged that he's offered to speak on our podcast. He does speaking engagements, and he loves and enjoys his writing. His passion is helping others understand that burnout is not failure, healing is possible, and lasting recovery comes through God's faithfulness. So welcome, Keith. It's so great to have you here.
Well, thank you so very much, Nat. It is definitely my privilege to be here. I'm so overwhelmed by that, and I really appreciate you and your story and everything that you're doing as you're reaching out to your audience.
Oh, and thank you. And I just wanted to highlight as well that it's very, very early where Keith lives over in the US. And I did find out when we were chatting recently that Keith has a very disciplined ritual and gets up extremely early when most of us are definitely still in our beds. So I'd love you to tell us a little bit more about who you are outside of the amazing bio that I read out and what you do in the world.
Thank you, Nat. As you mentioned, I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and there's the story how I got there. But after the Marines, then I went to college and I started doing income taxes, and I liked that, so I majored in accounting. I became certified, and then after a while working for different firms and corporations, then I finally went into business on my own and just thinking that probably that I didn't have enough stress, so I piled it on with that. And I was very successful in stressing out.
Oh,
I had it down pretty good by then. And so I was married to a lovely Lily, and we've been happily married with some bumps along the way, of course,
of course.
but we're very happily married. We just recently had our 45th wedding anniversary.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. That's a huge number. Very impressive.
Yeah, like I said, there were some bumps along the road. So, I mean, it wasn't all peaches and cream.
That's welcome to
But
married life.
yeah, very fortunate that my wife didn't leave me alone.
I want to go back to something you said before as well, Keith, that you really liked doing income taxes. I'm a bit concerned there. Like and income taxes in the same line.
I did very poor in school in science, like biology and that sort of thing. I was very good in math, and so I enjoyed that. But the biggest thing I enjoyed about income taxes was in the American tax world. The villain, of course, is the Internal Revenue Service.
Yes.
Right. So when somebody gets a letter from the Internal Revenue Service, kind of shakes them. To the core.
Yep.
So I had the opportunity to help people and to calm their nerves somewhat and let them know that they're not doing their income taxes by themselves, that I'm a professional and I know a lot about income tax, and I'm going to help. And so that just became a mantra in a way. At that particular time, it was the joy of seeing people get out of a tight fix that, somehow got themselves into.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, that would be very rewarding for you to know that you were doing something you love, but also really giving back to other people and helping them.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly what it was. And it was very rewarding. The problem with it is that my business, when I was in business, and so I surely took ownership of what I was doing.
Yeah.
And probably, not probably, but a little more than I should have. And so at times doing an overnighter would be no surprise, to work through the night, to finish up stuff because with employees, but I was probably overzealous with my controls and that type of thing that wasn't healthy, actually healthy.
Yeah. And I think, I've been a business owner for, goodness, I think 28 years now. And as a business owner, it's your entire reputation, but it can become your life. And you don't just work 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week. It becomes everything. So like you said, overnighters and being zealous and doing everything you could to run the best business you possibly could was really important to you. And I get that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So you talked about burnout. So you were working really hard. And I know you mentioned, you said there's a story to how you got into the Marines. And then you were in the Marine Corps for how long? How many years?
So I was in the Marines for just a little bit over 4 years. But I had no intention of becoming a Marine growing up.
Yeah.
I had 3 older brothers that were Marines, but my whole goal was my whole life as a kid growing up, I was going to become a Methodist minister.
Okay.
And I really got into it. It was quite a dream for me at the time. It was as a kid. And I would actually, I would preach to my imaginary congregation that sat on the stairs, on the steps leading to the upstairs of my house.
Yep.
And funny thing about it now, I mean, I was really into preaching to this crowd that I put there. And every once in a while, I would have to call one or two of them out for talking during my sermon and have to settle them down. But as time went on, and I was just early in my senior year of high school, and my dad was only 50, and he had been a railroader his whole life. He was started working on a railroad when he was 17, and he's the type of guy that would he never missed work. He took a half a day off work on his mother's funeral.
Oh, yeah, it says a lot.
It's just the work ethic
Mhm.
part of it. And he had during World War II, he wasn't in the Army or Marines or anything. He was on the railroad.
Mhm.
And so there was an exemption for railroaders or something because the country needed the railroad service. And around that same time, he had a burst appendix when he was working.
Okay.
And so he worked throughout his whole day, and he came home, and at dinner, as my mother told the story, he passed out at the dinner table because of his burst appendix.
Goodness
And
sake.
that was before penicillin, and he
Mm.
survived through that. So just let me tell that little story because he was very tough, very strong individual.
Yeah.
And so for him to die at 52 with this stroke, it was not, how could it be his fault? And so when that happened, that turned my world upside down. And I just blame God for not answering my prayer, saving my dad.
Yeah.
And I became very rebellious. I not only just cast aside any thought of ever becoming a minister. This was God's fault. God did this to me. He did answer my prayer.
Yeah.
And so, I even started smoking cigarettes. But
Very rebellious at the time, no doubt.
yeah, I had little brothers and sister. And then, of course, my mother. But their feelings and their loss was totally out of my selfish mind. My whole thought as a 17-year-old kid was, it was me.
Of course.
It's all about me. And so I graduated from high school and I enlisted into the Marine Corps.
Okay.
So I had always had the Marines don't have chaplains. They use the Navy's chaplains. So growing up, I thought, to appease my brothers, since I'm not going to be in the Marines, I would become a chaplain in the Navy and get assigned to the Marine Corps. That, so I could, keep peace among my brothers. But all of that changed just instantly, just bam, like that. And soft, easygoing guy became a real jerk. And so I enlisted into the Marines. Of course, Vietnam was going on at the same time. And my thought of that was, oh, this is good. More war. That's what I want is war. Type stupid thoughts, stupid actions. And I enlisted in the Marines. And from the Marine Corps, went to Vietnam. But before that, went through boot camp. And then from boot camp, they're telling us, every day, you're going to Vietnam as soon as this is over. Some of you are going to be coming home. Some of you aren't. That was the whole story in your brain, right?
Yeah.
And so I went to advanced infantry training after that. And then after that, I went to machine gun school. And so when I went to machine gun school, they said, you're going to be a machine gunner because you're smarter than these other guys. Oh boy, this Marine Corps is in trouble if I'm a smart. So I was in Vietnam for 6 months. We had, a certain amount of action while I was there, and so there was types of things that you do, and you shoot at people, and people shoot at you, and that sort of thing. But I was there 6 months, and before I got wounded the first time. And so then it was about a month and a half or so later, I got wounded again. And then a little bit maybe after that, I got wounded for the third time.
Wow.
So the third time, the first time I was on a hospital ship for a little bit. Second time I was just in the field hospital. So the third time, the wounds were not fixable
Okay.
in a short period.
Mm-hmm.
So they sent me back to the United States, where I went into the hospital, a Navy hospital. I was there for several months. And then I went back to regular duty. So I went back with what's called I&I duty, inspector and instructor.
Okay.
And that is, we had a compound in the city where the reserves would come on the weekend, and we would work with the reserves, train the reserves.
Yeah.
But the main duty was to notify next of kin when their Marine was either wounded or killed in action.
Okay.
And then we were the honor guard for the fallen Marine. And that was, in a lot of ways, tougher than actual combat.
Carrying a very emotional load at that time.
Very, very much so. And so during this period, there was a lot for us to do, unfortunately. Casualties were mounting up considerably. And so been there for about a year when I got a phone call from my brother and said that my mother was dying and didn't expect her to live through the night. And she had been sick, which I knew. She had cancer. And she had asked me one time if she was not able to live until my younger brother and sister graduated from high school, would I be their guardian? And I said, yeah, of course I will. And not having any idea what that meant. But after her funeral, then I went back to my duty station and I applied for discharge to be the guardian of my younger brother and sister.
Which makes complete that you would step up to honor your mum.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was getting into.
Oh.
But my younger brother, my sister was at the time, I think they were 11 and 13 or something like that.
And, so quite a bit younger.
But the thing of it was, at this time I'm 23. I'm 23 and I'm the guardian of these two teenage kids, or just about teenage. And I said, okay. That was a handful.
Yeah, goodness.
And from there, I went to college. But at the same time, I started college. And so I was sometimes working part-time, sometimes working full-time, but always going to college. And sometimes it was full-time work and part-time college, part-time work and full-time college, back and forth, depended on the job. And I got a job working in a factory, and I wasn't there very long. They fired me. So I got another job in a factory. And by this time, I had really wised up. I quit before they had a chance to fire me. But I started doing income taxes part-time. I learned how to do that. And so, wow, I like this. And that's when I decided I'd major in tax, or rather accounting, become a CPA.
So then fast forward to where we were before I made you recount all that story, sorry. And I'm just thinking, as you were telling me that story, how many similarities. You're talking about your dad and how tough he was and what a great work ethic he had. The apple didn't fall far from the tree, did it? Wounded 3 times, and you kept going, and then you honoured your mum's wishes, and you kept doing the work, the part-time, the full-time, the caring for the kids, and then threw yourself into this business, working ridiculous hours. It's no wonder you ended up where you did, is it?
It's something that part of it was PTSD, from combat.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that was something. I mean, the VA never even accepted it. The American Veterans Association never, Department of VA Veterans never accepted that
Yeah.
until the 80s.
Same here.
So, which have been at least 15 years after Vietnam War ended.
Yeah.
But I did know through that time, because I mean, I had, all types of nightmares and stuff through those earlier years, especially.
Of course.
And, but the thing is that those were my nightmares, and I kept them to myself. It's not something that I was going to say. I think it was World War I where it started. They came up with the term of shell shock.
Yes.
And so, I said, well, that's crazy. I don't have shell shock. I went to some sort of parade and stuff. I can't remember what it was about, but they had the Blue Angels flying.
Okay.
And we're out in this crowd of people in the city, and these jets start flying over. And excuse me, I ran for the car and just stayed in the car, trying to get away from the noise and stuff.
Would have been a huge trigger. Huge trigger.
Yeah. Yeah. I said, oh, this is not normal behavior. It's just something you just never talk about. And then, of course, I was always concerned of there's a stigma, perhaps, that might come with that.
Yeah.
And so I actually just refused to talk about that part of my experience. I would talk about different events and things in Vietnam. I would share things. I think I shared things Vietnam more than many veterans would do. But to me, I thought, maybe this will help me if I can get this out somewhat.
Yeah.
But for me to say I need help, no chance in the world would I do that.
No. And back then was so different as well to how it is now, where PTSD is very much recognized. And, whether it's our veterans or our first responders, very much. It's, it still can be quite taboo in some areas, but it's at least acknowledged now and recognized, and treatments available and more readily accepted. But back then, absolutely not.
Nothing. And I agree with you on that 100%. The fact that whether you're in combat, a veteran from combat, or like you say, an EM, and the tragedies that they see and things they go through at different events. But there's a lot more. You don't have to be an EM or a veteran in combat to have burnout.
Oh, absolutely.
Or for any type of trauma. I mean, there's all types of ways. But, I was thinking about this the other day, and the fact is it's, life is kind of like a smorgasbord. You can go in there and pick off any type of trauma you want. It's out there for you. People suffer all different types of trauma, events in their lives from wherever it may be from.
And what I see so often, I'm glad you raised that, is that people have this habit of minimizing it. Oh, that wasn't major. Oh, that was nothing compared to what such and such went through, or compared to that. And they minimize it. And the reality is trauma, whether it's what we term a little T trauma or a big T trauma. If it's outside your normal and causes you distress and you don't have the skills to cope with it, then trauma is trauma. And I think we need to normalize that and talk about it. And it's okay to have trauma, or as you said, the burnout. And really the burnout is usually from a nervous system that's fried because of exhaustion and little bits of stress, constant stress, hypervigilance, trauma, whatever it is, leads to that exhaustion, and your body shuts down and our nervous system holds on to everything. So, yeah, so that will lead very nicely into you sharing more about burnout and what you've learnt from burnout and what you recognize from your burnout experience.
The biggest thing I've learned is not to keep everything on the inside. You know, it should never be a road traveled alone. So in my case, it just just kind of like all came to a head one night in my office, and it was late. Everybody had gone home long before, and I just felt like kind of like everything was just about to explode or something. I don't know how to say that, but I did keep a bottle of scotch in my desk drawer down here. So I reached down there and I pulled the bottle out, and I started pouring a glass. I thought, no, I don't need a glass, and I just drank from the bottle.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
And normally that would kind of give me a temporary calming of the nerves or something. But it just seemed different. It just wasn't right in my mind.
Okay.
And so I reached for the bottle again, and I started to drink again from the bottle. And as I started that, I recall I slammed it back down on the desk and said, no, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. And that's when I cried out to God to forgive me. To help me. And I spent quite a bit more time that night with my face in the floor. That was very difficult. It was very tough. And so then as the days went on, and I kind of, what in the world happened? Why, how did this all happen to me? And why type of thing. And so I started writing. Actually, when I started writing, I was writing to me.
Okay.
I'm trying to lay out what happened, how I got from there to here, and trying to put my thoughts together on that. And as I was doing that, I prayed a lot through that time, and I thought, well, this is useful, and I thought if this is helping me, I wasn't the only one in Vietnam fighting, not the only one that got wounded, for Pete's sakes.
Yeah.
And then I think I went through that whole array that we had just mentioned. That, well, it wasn't not just Vietnam, not just combat, but there's so many other things where people are suffering for different trauma events. And so I think if this helps me, surely it'll help someone else as well. And so I took the story that I was writing, and I thought, okay. And I took my memories, my pain, and I poured all this into a fictional Marine that I called Kevin Casey.
Okay.
And so the book it's all about Kevin Casey, the Marine combat veteran. And all names are fictional in the book.
Yeah.
But the story, the memories, the pain, and the redemption are actually mine.
Okay.
And that's when also I wrote in it, and I created a separate workbook for it, on the God's Recovery Plan, which is it's an 8-step process every day. And so it contains 8 elements,
Yeah.
such as action, prayer, scripture reading,
Mm-hmm.
and but there's these 8 different steps, and each one of the steps it's grounded in a, a Bible verse. And so there's 8 different items, and I go through those every day for 1 week.
Okay.
And then on the second week, same 8 elements,
Mm-hmm.
but the scripture changes for each one of those. The Bible verse changes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it goes for 12 weeks.
Okay. Yeah.
And the thing about that is I've been through it, of course, now several times.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many. But for me, the Bible verses are always telling me, so I'm learning something different every time I do it, and
Yeah.
as I get involved in it. And it's created quite a discipline as well. So that, for example, action is the very first step, because I still want to work. I still want to be active. I
Yeah.
want to be a productive citizen, right? And so, but the difference in my action is I have, and usually not more than 6 different items that I'm going to get done today. And so, but I prepare those 6 items through prayer, God's guidance. And I know, and I put them in priority as far as the importance. And I understand that I'm going to go from one to the next, and I've got a time limits on my day.
Okay.
And so I know that if I would only get 3 of those things done, I know that I've done all I could do that day.
So
And
that's self-compassion, not expecting more than you're able to do that day.
exactly right.
Excellent.
And so I have it under that type of plan. And also during the day, there's another step towards the end of all the steps. Well, it's the last one, I believe. And it's called rest.
Okay.
Rest is not just whether if you observe the Sabbath or not, but
Mm-hmm.
it's or just a weekend, taking a weekend off. But I see it as keeping limits on my day that I'm actually working on what needs to be done,
Which,
so that I don't work 11 or 12 o'clock or try to do an all-nighter at my age. But the thing of it is I want to have that set aside, and I have time for family time in the evening with my wife.
yeah.
And also I set up a time where I have breaks during the day. And just recently, this one's not in the book, but I just recently started with one of those breaks is 15 minutes. I take 15 minutes of nothing but quiet. And I make sure there's no distractions to interrupt. I set my timer for 15 minutes. And I do my very best to have no thoughts for 15 minutes.
Wow.
Just peaceful. This I've just started, so I'll tell you in the future how that works.
Yeah, work in progress. Now, what I'm loving, just hearing you say that you found your own way to set up discipline, routine, a ritual that worked for you, and taking action gets you into that doing and gets you out of your head. So they're all the things that when we're working with someone with trauma that we would suggest they do. And with burnout, you've set really clear limits and acknowledged where things hadn't gone so well in the past and how you can counteract that. So yeah, they're the things I've written that down. So action, discipline, rest, just to calm your nervous system and quiet. And I imagine that that's going to be something that's going to take practice before that mind goes silent.
Yes, exactly.
And
And
the
uh,
priorities of really acknowledging what's most important for you, the relationships, the people you love, and making time for them. I love it. I think you've nailed all the things that we would look for. And I'm looking forward to reading your book.
the couple other of the other elements of the 8 elements. One is affirmations. So that what happens is it's an acronym. A, praiser. R is reading scripture. A is affirmations. So I have, I have goals, I have aspirations. I know where I've been. I know what I've been, and I know what I want to become. And so affirmations are working on my become.
Excellent.
And then I is for inscribing, and that is writing my
Mm,
gratitude journal.
yeah,
So that's a daily event. So I start my day
I
of
love it.
writing the things that I'm thankful for. And then the S is seeing, which is visualization.
Okay.
So I put together a visualization board, and I put pictures of things where I see myself in the future, or whatever uh, I want in the future.
Yeah.
And then, of course, is exercise.
Hmm.
E is for exercise. And exercise is that taking care of the body physically, mentally. And so I go to the gym every morning, and I work out 5 days a week.
Wow.
But also I have scheduled for the year my checkups with the different medical specialists. And so that trying to get it all encompassing. And then the R's for rest that we discussed a little bit ago.
I love
Now,
that. I think, very all the things together, but in a structured way that are healthy that we know will really help rebuild and connect you with your identity, who you are now, and help you reintegrate your head brain, your heart brain, and your gut brain. So, really looking at bringing it all back together. Very
yes,
powerful.
it certainly has helped me.
And I have no doubt that, so the book's out in the world. So, are you, when you say you're talking, are you running programs or anything like that for people?
So I reach out to different church organizations and
Hmm.
veterans organizations.
Excellent.
And I, so I have different talks, but also I have, I'm working on putting together workshops,
Excellent.
and, it's one thing to hear people talk. It's another thing to be able to interact and, and try things out yourselves.
Yeah, to integrate that so they can actually practice it and, as we say, practice what we preach rather than just say it. Actually say and
Yes.
do so you can be who
Yeah.
you want to be. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the book is a very easy read. I said, like my brother, one of my older brothers, said, Keith, you know English well enough you could write a book? I said, well, actually, my heart wrote the book and the editors did the rest.
But it's what's
But
in our heart that matters.
yeah, yeah, right.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Wow. So, Keith, if you could share one thing with our listeners that would help them as they navigate their post trauma or adversity or burnout, whatever it is, and they move through post traumatic growth, what would it be?
I think the very most important thing is not to attempt to take the road by yourself. Don't do it alone. You can reach out to therapists, reach out to even clergy or friends, family. The key point in reaching out is you reach out to somebody you trust,
Mm,
have trust, and please don't do it alone.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really important message. And often when we've gone through, trauma or burnout, we do tend to isolate, to shut down, to have all these things going on in our brain, and we're in our head and we think, oh, we're not exciting to be around. People aren't interested because we're not in a good place ourselves. And
Yes, exactly.
so it's about letting someone walk beside us. They don't have to carry us, but they just need to be present. I think that's very important, to allow someone to be present. They don't need to fix it. No one can fix it. It's just about knowing, as you said, that you're not alone.
Which is so important.
Yeah, agree. So, Keith, as we move to wrapping this conversation up, where can our listeners find out more about you and find you online or find your book?
Yeah, of course, Amazon. Through my website is .com.
Okay. Recoverybyfaith.com. And we'll put that
Right.
in
And
the
so,
show notes.
okay, thank you. And the on the website, I have a blog. You can sign up for a newsletter. You can reach out to me. I'll respond to anybody that reaches out. And there's links to where you can get the books and the workbook. So the book itself is it's a 9x6, so it's kind of small. So and the workbook's in it, but it's, so what I did, I also published a workbook that brings you, so it's 8.5 by 11. So it's much easier to use. And stuff, that's what, I do all the time. I use the workbook. And so it's much easier to write in and keep your notes. Thanks. And to follow through.
Excellent. Yeah, so I'll put all of that in the show notes. And yes, thank you so much for bravely sharing your story, not just your burnout story, but actually talking about stuff that I know is hard and often not acknowledged as a combat veteran in Vietnam. So I really am very grateful that you've done that today. Thank you.
I think that I'd like just tell the audience that people keep everything inside and think that they're strong for doing it. Right. And so it's like, how could I have burnout? I'm too strong for that. I'm too tough.
Yeah.
I'm a United States Marine. Come on. And truth of the matter is, my surrender to God was not weakness. That was true strength. And if you don't think it's strength, then try talking about it on podcasts, which go worldwide.
Exactly.
See how much strength it takes.
I completely agree.
And it doesn't take strength to suffer, because we all do. But just don't do it alone.
Yeah. Very wise words there. And I always finish each episode asking my guest, what do you think your younger self would think of what you're doing now and what you've achieved?
Well, my younger self would, oh boy. I'm not sure if my younger self would be proud or very critical.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I would say that my younger self in his heart would be proud. I'm able to talk about things today.
Yeah.
But would probably think, how come you're not working harder?
Yeah, that work ethic was pretty ingrained. But what about young Keith, who's got all the people lined up on the stairs, who's who's the minister preaching to them. How would he go?
Oh, wow. In a way now, that's almost a full circle, you know.
It is. I just wanted to
Uh,
point that out, that
yeah.
beautifully shared that story. And I laugh because my daughter would want to be a teacher, and she would have all the toys set up in there and talk about teaching them and all the naughty ones that were doing things in the class. That's what it reminded me of as you were saying that. I could see them lined up on the stairs, and I thought, you have come full circle, and really you're honoring what that young boy wanted you to do.
I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that God's recovery plan is what did that.
Mm-hmm.
It's God's recovery plan that finally gave me peace of mind.
Yeah. Yep. How beautiful. And I think, as you said, regardless of what your beliefs were, and you had beliefs and then they were really tested and you went the other direction, that regardless of what our beliefs are from a spiritual perspective, it's about having that belief that there is something greater than ourselves.
Oh, yes.
Something outside us, because as you beautifully said, we cannot do it alone. We're human beings and we need connection, whether that's a connection to God, a connection to whatever it is that our listeners choose to believe in. It makes no difference. It's about having something outside ourselves.
Yes. Excellent.
And that faith, and ultimately, eventually getting to the place where you can have faith in yourself to get, as you said, that peace of mind again.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you've given up part of your scheduled early morning routine to speak on our podcast. And I will look forward to the episode dropping and having people connect with you and hearing your beautiful story. So thank you, Keith.
Oh, thank you very much, Nat. I really appreciate you so much. So thanks so very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for spending this time with me on Growing Tall Poppies. My hope is that today's episode has offered you something more than insight, that it's helped you feel a little more connected to who you are now, a little more trusting of your body, and a little more permission to stand tall without shrinking or forcing yourself forward. Post-traumatic growth isn't about fixing yourself or returning to who you once were. It's about understanding how you adapted, honouring your nervous system, and gently choosing what no longer needs to come with you. New episodes of Growing Tall Poppies are released weekly, every Tuesday, and I'd love for you to continue walking this path with us as we explore identity after adversity, integrity and visibility wounds, nervous system wisdom, and what it truly means to grow forward, grounded, aligned, and embodied. If this episode resonated, I invite you to subscribe, follow, share it with someone that you feel might need it, or simply take a quiet moment to reflect on what's ready to move forward for you. You can also find me on Instagram at Dr. Nat Green, on Facebook at Dr. Natalie Green, or over on YouTube at Dr. Nat Green. And remember, you don't need to rush, and you don't need to hide anymore. Stay connected, stay true, and keep standing tall like the tall poppy you are. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.